Hey gang, I'm Ruthann.
I'm Chris.
And we are Geek Chic Promotions. We are coming from you not live right now for WonderCon.
Yes.
I'm going to be there. Chris couldn't make it, so we
Yes.
wanted to pre-record something. And, just make sure we have something up. I'll still be posting all day, as you'll notice, from WonderCon.
And just to be clear, I could make it. I don't want to make it.
I wasn't going to tell that to them. So
I'm going to say,
your
guys,
call.
I'm burnt out.
like
people have been asking me why, because, we said we were going to be there,
Yeah.
blah, 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 blah. But honestly, I've been doing a lot of shows lately, guys, and I've been traveling a lot. And I need a weekend off.
Yes.
And
So,
yes, for
here's
me,
to me time.
Yes, so I know she's fully capable of handling it on her own. She's going to go there, she's going to kick ass. And it's going to be amazing.
You're going to have a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's going to be a lot of fun
It's
videos.
going to be great.
Yeah.
And I will be at home with my feet up,
Chillaxing, catching up on that DVR.
being super grateful that I don't have to make that drive out to Anaheim and find parking.
Preach.
So, yes.
Yes.
So cheers.
to you.
Cheers, guys.
Yes. All right, so for this special Nerd Rage, we actually want to do something a little different because we obviously love getting very passionate and very aggressive about our nerd fandoms, but we want to talk about some tricks that we use when we are nerd raging, but we're not in a place or with people that we can let that nerd rage expose itself.
Ruthann, do you have an example?
Oh my gosh. It's, all the time.
Yes.
But we actually recently had something where we were at a very non-nerdy event. It was an a cappella group from Harvard. So yes, very not nerdy. I mean, not our flavor that we're talking about nerdy.
Yeah, it was fine. We were in very prestigious company.
Yes.
It was lovely.
It was lovely. It was a very good time. But I paid for some of our snacks with my money, and my money is in my X-Men wallet.
It's
so
true.
a gentleman saw my X-Men wallet and was like, "Oh, X-Men," and then wanted to talk about the Disney Fox merger,
Which we had literally just nerd raged about, by the way, guys.
it was
Literally.
hours. No, not
later.
even an hour
Yeah.
after we had nerd raged live with you guys last weekend. And he just didn't. I don't remember the full of what he said.
The whole thing, which is what triggered Ruthann, because
She probably saw me getting triggered. She's like,
because I'm standing there, by the way, just listening to this at this point, because the guy was clearly engaging her about her wallet and wanted to know, hey, what do you think about that merger? And Ruthann's like, well, I'll be honest. And I said, you know what, I'm going to take a wait and see stance, but we really don't feel good about it right now because of the layoffs that happened.
because of the layoffs, because
Right.
that studio is not going to be putting out as many movies.
Right.
And he's like, but X-Men, am I right? And I was like,
Yeah.
Well,
And then he goes, and don't layoffs happen all the time with mergers? Whatever.
just
Literally blew it off, guys. It was nothing. It was nothing.
And I forget there was some other
Which,
nerdy
by the
reference
way,
he tried to make.
Just to point that out, the layoffs that happened are so vast. There aren't enough jobs in LA to encompass all the people that have been laid off at this moment.
because of this specific
Because
merger.
of this merger and this layoff, there's 4,000 people that got laid off all at once, and there's not enough jobs available in the industry to take on that many people looking for it. So we're talking people moving home. We're talking about, moving home. Like they're going back to wherever it was that their parents are from, and they're just like, well, we give up. People had moved out here, thought they had a stable job, no longer do. It is soul crushing.
People have families.
Yeah, they have families. It's and it's just a terrible thing. And for someone to offhandedly say, oh, but that happens with every murder,
time, right?
And it was one of those things where you're going to play a company. You're not going to sit there and get into it. You're not.
And especially, it was every level what he was trying to talk to me about, and I just knew he not only obviously didn't know about the merger,
harm.
didn't
Yeah,
know
it
about
was-
the industry, didn't know anything about the actual.
This was not the time and
IPs.
place to educate, though.
And I literally asked you afterwards. I was like, "Was that rude?"
No.
Because I was just because it was the intermission of the a cappella show that we were at, and I was just like, "Oh, we're gonna go back and get our seats.
We're just going to go.
We're just gonna."
She literally just cut him
like-
off and was
it's
like, bye.
I think we're done.
We're done.
I'm
And I was
done.
like, and me, being me, I'm just like, all right. And we just left.
But I afterwards, because I felt kind of
Yes,
guilty,
you
because you
did.
guys know me, I like to be very sweet
did.
and very and
Which, by the way, I'm not. And so this behavior was normal to me. I was like, I'm good. And she was like, was I too, what?
Was
was
I
I all right? Like, that was harsh. And I'm sitting there going, what? No.
Like, yeah. Surprised you didn't flip him off when you did so. Like, fuck. But it got us thinking, and Chris brought it up today, of just like, well, what do we do when there's situations like that? Because it happens so often. And I'd love to hear from you guys as well, but I feel like for us women, it happens so much because, like, they see a geeky thing and they're like, yeah, cool. What
do you think about this? And they just like regurgitate
idiot
something.
Shit. Like, just,
which happens. Which, by the way, honestly, a side note, anecdote, is I started watching a lot of TV shows simply because when I went to conventions and stuff and found myself in the company of like various different groups of people who were interested in different things, I wanted to be able to talk about everything that was brought up. And so I kept up on everything, which was difficult because there was a lot out there.
She is the queen of that. She actually got me on the skim just so I could go to non-nerd parties.
Right. and actually like be updated on things happening in the world.
Other than with Dragon Ball.
But like... It's true.
It's true.
But honestly, so I like to be able to hold my own in any conversation I'm put in. It's one of my things that I do because... it's perfectly fine to be like, oh, I really don't know a lot about that subject. Like, I don't watch that show or whatever.
Also, I'd much prefer if you said that versus being like, this, that, the other.
And faking your way through it.
Like, no, just be like, I don't know that show. Tell me more. I'm interested. Like, whatever.
But I like to watch everything. So that's where I go. But, however, I think there's a time and a place, like, to discuss certain things. And quite often we find ourselves in situations like at shows or other events like that where someone comes up to us and just triggers us. And it's, it's hard to keep a lid on that rage. And so we thought we would share some solutions to what we do to get out of those situations and kind of just move forward. So maybe you guys would find that helpful.
Or we'd also love to hear your stories of what
like if
what you do.
Well.
Because I
besides being outright rude.
Yeah, I need help because I'm usually way too nice, and to the point where I'm just like, I feel like I'm part of the problem right now. Like, oh God.
Yeah.
But it's just because it can get pretty bad.
It can, and also like when you get home. And you sit there and you beat yourself up about it. And you think, what could I have said differently? And then you take a shower and you're in the shower and you're going like, and you're having an imaginary conversation. And you're like, what if I'd gone like this?
Yeah.
And like, I could have said this and then this would have happened and blah, blah. And pretty soon you've imagined a whole new life for yourself.
Or, there's actually another side to this restraining your nerd rage that I didn't think of until just now. But there are times that somebody is very excited and happy about a certain thing and you just fucking hate it so much, and like I'm not gonna be that person to be like, it sucks and here's why. Like, it's just that's
some
another
people
time.
Are like that though.
There are, but I can't like,
I'm not that
love
way either.
Love what you love, man. Like, that's the thing. Is so for example, the
although I have to say, if I'm standing there and then all of a sudden everybody comes up and wants to talk to Renanne about being Beaumont, I'm like,
she will make that shit known.
I will.
But it's funny and it's on brand and it's great. But what was I trying to remember?
I'm sorry, I interrupted.
No, it's okay. So I had a friend who absolutely loved the Man of Steel movie the first time that we saw Henry Cavill as Superman.
Okay.
He loved it. And to be fair, I hadn't seen it yet, so I watched it with him, and I have to say, like, his love of it and his excitement totally was contagious, and I was like, okay, all right, like, I'll forgive this
I'll
stuff.
allow it.
And so there has to be, like, when, I feel like in those situations when you have somebody that's super excited about something, even though even if you did see it and you know it, like, just kind of let their excitement, because like that's what makes our nerd community important, is that we need to support when people are excited about stuff, because there's so much toxicity and just like negativity in nerddom right now. Like, anything is just like, yes, like as long as you like something positive, not like
and that brings me to, like, things where literally people who want to know, like, your thoughts and your opinions on very sensitive subjects. And there are a lot of sensitive subjects out there.
Yes.
Like, if someone's getting Me Too'd in the industry and you know who they are and you've hung out with them and other people, and people want to come up and talk to you about it because they know you know them, and they're like, how do you feel? And really, that's a sensitive subject because... Yeah. Like, yeah. So there's a way to navigate that. First of all, if I were somebody, I would not go either way because it's being judged by the court of public opinion. And honestly, while you could be right, and you probably are right, and we should always believe people.
We should always
believe people.
Always believe people, but also just read the room.
Read the room. Thank you. Read the room.
Because obviously, always support, always believe the people. But if you don't want to start an actual, like...
There's no reason to get into that conversation, to be honest. And if people are dying to know what your thoughts are on it, just say, you know what? I don't want to really talk about that right now because we're having such a great time.
Yeah.
We're having a great time. And that's a downer of a subject.
But also, like, we also have to preface again, we always support
absolutely
the people that come out against these things or for...
Yes.
That's, again, it's just so delicate we can even talk about it on this channel. Like,
yes.
Of course, always support and always believe and always, stand up for what is right and when you know
absolutely.
facts.
I feel like there's a time and a place to make your position known.
But the whole thing that really messes up this whole thing is what's his face who
Jussie Smollett.
Like that messed us all up. Like that messed up the whole thing.
Yeah.
Thanks, guy.
Yeah.
Like,
there's also Amber Heard. Same thing, guys, because then it came out that she was actually abusing poor Johnny Depp. And that there's photographic evidence and there's witnesses of her chopping off his finger and like throwing shit at him. And like, it's incredible, to be honest.
Yes.
But
out of control. But all right. But when it comes to like nerd rages, like
yes, and
trying to control like figuring stuff out, because like I've also had it where I'm with family. And, like, my poor family doesn't know nerd stuff. And it was not a family member. It was actually a friend of a family member who started talking at me about movies. And it was real bad, guys. Like, he didn't understand why Citizen Kane was such a popular movie that, what was it that he considered such a better movie that was such a dog shit movie? It was something out of control, like... Oh, God. I don't remember.
Well, look, the same thing happens, like, in any industry, because I remember going back to Marcus's house for our first Christmas together, and I was working at Girl Scouts at the time, and I remember the first thing, he's got a very loud and very outgoing other half of the family that his mother married into, right, that is very boisterous, and somebody sat down right next to me and was like, heard they let a transgender into Girl Scouts. I don't agree with that. What's your take on it? Literally my first Christmas. And of course, I literally did not know who was what, who to talk to, who believed what. I don't know anybody's things. And I honestly thought it was a joke when she sat down next to me. And I was like, I think it's awesome. Like literally, I just launched into it and she... sat there next to me, and to her credit, she was just like, that's an interesting point of view. Okay.
Yeah.
And, like, she accepted it. And it was like, okay, polite discourse. Wonderful. That turned out okay.
Yes,
I was told
almost literal bullet.
Yes. I was told later about the bullet I dodged, so it was, like, fine. But, like, things like that where you're in a situation, and you're just like, now what?
Now what do I say
now?
React to this?
Like, I want to stand up for my beliefs, but in present company, is that wise? Am I going to ruin a Christmas party?
Is there,
like...
It's going to be pitchforks involved?
I mean, because then there's people who are like, you absolutely should ruin the Christmas party and stand up for your beliefs. Like, that's because if you don't stand up for your beliefs, I'm like, then what's the point? Yes, and so, but I'm like, you know what, time and place. That's been my belief, guys, is time and a place. Like, I will stand up all day long. I will go to the marches. I will go to the protests.
Yeah.
I will vote. I will do all of my shit. And I will also not invite people to cons because I have sway.
Yeah.
I will not invite certain people to cons. I will stand up for the other people who don't want them invited to cons. I will do all of that as well.
We've uninvited. We've switched people. We've done a lot to be
What I won't do, though, is sit there at a con and talk about it and gossip about it with other people because I don't feel that's appropriate. I don't think it helps. I think it just hurts. And honestly, there's no point to it. So while I think you should always stand up for your beliefs, I also think...
You know what I attribute it to?
Place.
So it's the same way that a lot of people don't share or retweet or something that has the attacker's face or the attacker's name or anything like that, because you're just... Or just the asshole or the bitch or whatever who's done something horrible. Like, you don't share that because it still connects them and it still, like, kind of gives them publicity in a way. So, like, that's what we mean when in a time and place. Does that make sense? Like, we're not we're saying always stand up for all that stuff, and always stand up for Captain Marvel, by the way, and always stand up for Wonder Woman and all the other stuff that, like, in our nerd world that we need to stand up for. You know, like,
it's true.
It's there. Nerd rage is very necessary because we always talk about it's not necessarily like angry all the time. It's just that we're so passionate. Yeah. We're just fun. We're passionate about things and we get hyped up.
Which, by the way, speaking of that, like, shout out to, like, the Marvel Endgame, like, ones that are coming out, and the one with Chris Pratt, where it says, like, all your fault, or, like, you know, or something like that. So spot on. Because
I actually think I sent you the meme that was like, Avengers, like, Endgame brought to you by Star-Lord. You're like, yep, no, you're right. You're right. That was this movie wouldn't be here.
Breaks my heart, but accurate. Anyway.
Yeah.
So, anyway, Ruth Ann, do you have any ways that you like to diffuse situations or maybe perhaps get rid of that nerd rage that builds up inside you?
Yes. So, there are ways that I deflect. It's usually the good old, what's that? But more verbally than that, of just like, you know, you just kind of just smile and nod and just change the subject as quickly as possible to calm yourself down and just, like, put that fire out, negate that, like, energy. When I'm home, there will usually be a post or a phone call or something like that I need to, like, it'll either be you or, like, Michaela or Bernadette or somebody, you know, just like, just like, there's also dancing and singing very loud helps me. Depending on the depth of the soulness of the nerd rage, sometimes I have to pick up, like, a classic like Princess Mononoke or something like that and watch that and just
I definitely have to watch something funny. Like, like, okay, so yesterday,
what are your
this
tricks?
is a good example. So yesterday, I was really, a bunch of little things, like, just ticked me off, guys. Like, it was just a whole freaking day of things ticking me off.
We had a day.
Yes, we had a day. And so, essentially, I'm getting angry at the end of the day, and I have, like, okay, how I sit with my coworkers is literally, it's this huge freaking table, and there's 6 of us at a table. So it's 3 on one side, and then it splits, and then there's 3 on the other. And the guy across from me hasn't started yet. It's a big, huge stuffed animal that we've named Frank. It's actually a Coca-Cola polar bear that's, like, life size. And it sits in the chair, and somebody positioned it. Yeah, his name is Frank. Oh. And somebody positioned it where he had his feet propped up on the desk, you know, like he was, like, chilling out. And he's got, like, a megaphone, like, tucked there, which is hilarious. But then somebody uncrossed his legs, so he was, like, spread-legged, facing me. And of course, it, like, the jokes that go around, like, every time one of my coworkers is just like, look, he's me tooing you, he's me too. Like, and it's funny. It really is, honestly, it is funny. But anyway, so Frank got a beating right before I left. And, which made me laugh because I have a coworker who sits next to him, and he was like, why are you beating on Frank? Like, literally, he was like, didn't care. He was just like a question.
What
like,
you doing, bro?
What Frank ever do to you?
What the shit?
You know? And it was like, Frank is just being Frank right now, and I need to beat his ass. Like, this is how this is going. I'm sorry, Frank, but you've had it coming for a long time. And just going through that, it made me laugh. It made everyone else laugh, and it blew off some steam. So I'm like, I don't think we can get rid of Frank, guys. I'm like, I'm sorry, but new person can't start Monday. I'm sorry, Frank's not going anywhere. Yeah. Like he needs to stay. But then also, when I was driving home, I had a lot of time to think, which also a little bit of road rage going on because, oh my God, guys, I have such a long drive. I
It's
drive for an
awful.
hour home
It's
on the
awful.
405 all the way. Like, so it's like, it's pretty bad. And I just get angry at people. So like it builds up again. But I got off purposely on Wilshire and I took Sepulveda for the rest of the way, which is a very lovely drive.
Yeah.
It's like through the hills and it's like very lovely. And that calmed me down a little bit. And by the time I got home, I was not as angry as I was. And I kept thinking of like everything I wanted to get off my chest when I got home. And I was like, oh, I'm going to say this and I'm going to talk about this. And just by like repeating that stuff in my head, got it off my chest.
Yeah.
Like so by the time I got home, I was great. And then like Marcus had stopped off on the way home and picked up like some sandwiches for dinner. And he was like, have you had a bad day? And I was like, yeah, I've had a bad day. And he goes, well, sandwiches fix your bad day. And I was like, yeah. Sandwiches are gonna fit my day.
Well, like there's like small nerd rage that I love too, because like, so for example, San Diego Con years ago, I was very excited because I found a DBZ Scouter on the show floor for super cheap, and I bought one, so I had to wear it for the rest of the day because I'm an idiot. And this one was very embarrassed to be around me for the rest of the day, but. There'd be these guys.
I mean, guys, if you were to see her, I mean, she's just got this thing down. I'm like, oh my God. And she's walking around like it's normal.
Oh yeah, it's totes. It's a fucking DBZ Scouter. Checking everybody's power levels. So the thing that got and I was chill about it then. I feel like I'd be a bit snippier about it now, to be honest. But guys who wanted to like flirt with me, but they had no idea what that was, which would be fine. Just flirt with me. Don't try to like
integrate it in.
Is that like a Google Glass? Fuck you! It's a goddamn Scouter. Get out of my face. Or like, oh, are you doing X-rays with that? It's a Scouter. I'm looking for your power levels and your location, bitch. Get out of here. Shit. Like that. They were like, I had those moments of just like, just don't. Like, I'm in MySpace, I'm at San Diego Comic-Con.
Guys,
I'm like turning bright red.
Let this be a lesson.
If you're gonna hit on me,
you best
know what you're talking about.
Going on.
You best know what this M is on my neck. You best know.
Like, don't like
Is
ask.
that your sign? No.
Like, this is not a conversation starter. None of these things are starters. They're like enders. So, yeah.
Bing, bing.
Don't
But
be like, oh, hey, like, what's that? That's so interesting. Like, no icebreakers, guys. Nope. You better know what it is right off the bat.
You
Otherwise,
got
you're
to
gone.
know.
That's it.
Because, like, it just gets under my skin a little bit. Not gonna lie, obviously. I didn't... To those gentlemen that did try that one time, I was very nice and just smiled and walked away. But that was what I was saying in my head. I was mad.
Which, by the way, it is hilarious because you can see them coming a mile away, by the way. Like, honestly, you see it on their face. Like, you think you're being all, like, cool and shit. You're not. Like, you have a look on your face. Like, you're thinking of exactly what you're going to, like, you're working it out in your brain.
Oh, yeah, just
on your way up.
I got this.
Yes.
I'm like, I know you don't know what you're saying.
Yeah.
I know you don't.
And, like, I just sit there and I watch these guys just walk up to Ruth Ann and I'm just like,
Wait, hold on.
damn.
Side note, my favorite burn from Prince to this poor kid. We were working, you know exactly the story I'm about to tell. We were doing an event in a comic book shop, and this sweet kid, 20-something maybe, that worked there, because I was doing the lighting, and I was setting up the lighting, so I have, like, all my tools on my belt. I can't even say it. It's just so funny. So I'm like taking a break, or I just finished or something, and he starts asking me questions about the tools on my belt. And like me being like, I love talking about my shit. So I'm like telling every story about my tool and what type of tool it is, all this stuff. And Chris just comes up and he's like, you don't actually want to know about our tools. You're not interested in tools. And just like, I feel like you even came in between us to tell me, just like, you don't.
Because, like, first of all, dude, we're trying to fucking set up, all right? So, like, save it, all right? We got crap to do. And, like, she's, like, working. And he's all like, so what's this one do?
I'm so happy to talk about my tools.
She's like, I'm excited and nerdy about my tools, I'm going to tell you. And I'm just, like, having none of it. I, like, walk over there, I'm like, you're not interested in her tools, and you need to fucking hurry yourself with the lighting.
Get back to work.
Let's wrap this up. Also, he was, like, 12.
Yeah, he
Oh
was
my
probably
God.
like 20-0.
Yes.
So you were very sweet, sir.
If you're watching.
If you're watching. We're so bitchy.
I know, I'm so mean.
We had a little more wine tonight.
We did.
'cause
We've already pre-gamed.
Yeah, we
I'm
pre-gamed, sorry, so we're a little extra.
Yeah, it is a little extra. And when I came up with this idea, it was like, great, we're going to be super positive. And now we're just like,
And
being
we're sort of like,
assholes.
but no, this is good. This is good.
Yeah.
So, because it is important to be able to, like, just smile and nod and, like, work it out later.
Yes.
So, for instance, just this last week, I was working with a company that's, like, a very nerdy, well-known company in, like, the world. And somebody wanted to chit-chat with me, and I was like, you guys going to WonderCon next weekend? It's great. And they looked at me, and were like, what's WonderCon?
And you're
Now,
like, bye.
we live in Southern California.
Yes.
We're, like, miles away from where it's always been. Well, technically, it was up in Northern
It's been
California for a
everywhere,
minute.
though. Yeah.
But, like,
It started off there. It started off in San Francisco, and then it came down here. But then it was like, oh, we're in Anaheim, but then we're going to relocate to L.A.
Yeah,
and
but then just JK.
Yeah. So, anyway,
but
it's
either
been
way,
around, guys.
It's very
been
close to
around.
us, and also it's the second largest Southern California convention. And I usually I'd just be like, oh, it's just a convention, whatever. But I kind of want to call them out. I did a little dig, which, guys, you shouldn't do a little dig. Again, we're a little bitchier now.
Yeah. The older we
but
get.
but it's why you love us, right? For Nerd Rage.
That's right.
Okay, so I was just like, it's just the second largest convention in Southern California, and he just was like, yeah, and I was like, okay, and just literally turned and just kept
Mr.
eating my
Burrow.
lunch, like, but it's just like, how do you, but they work in gaming, and they work
That's-
for a very nerd
That's a question.
culture
okay,
company,
I
and
have
it's
to
just
wonder,
like,
you guys,
how do you not know?
some people get their jobs. Like, honest to God, I sit there, some of the stories you tell, some of the stories I have,
Yeah.
where I'm like, how? How are you in this business?
When you
And
don't
it's
know
like,
anything about it.
oh, but like, I was hired as like, an IT guy, so I really don't know anything about this, and like, blah, blah. Like, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about
Yes.
real freaking positions in entertainment where they literally have no clue what their business is about. And I'm like, did you just know someone?
Okay,
Like,
screw it. I'm going to tell a story, even though this might get us in trouble.
Okay.
All right. So there was a convention company that we used to work for that they fired most of their staff and then hired on people who had no idea about any pop culture references. We somehow stayed just a little bit longer. Like we missed the culling for a minute, and then we ended up getting fired. But before we did, there was a conference call that I will never forget for my entire life. So this new person that I hired on was supposed to be managing the show was like, Chris, I want a guest that's so big that I know who they are. Like, I want somebody to da-da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
And who does she name drop?
guys, I mentioned Mark Hamill.
Mark Hamill. Long pause on the call. Who's that?
Who's that?
Even longer pause because Chris thought they were joking.
I did. And then I said, Luke Skywalker?
Another long fucking pause. And then in the back, this chick that was just also hired on goes, and this was right before Force Awakens comes out, by the way. She's like, I think they have a movie coming out this year. Do you fucking mean Star Wars? Yes, they have a movie coming out this year.
Yeah, that's who we were working with, guys. And we got fired.
That moment to me was like, how are these people, because like,
Yeah, what is happening? Like, where are we? Are we in like a Twilight Zone?
What is-
Like, honestly, and that's happened more times, guys. Than just that one
okay,
instance.
so that's a nerd rage she handled very well, but then as soon as we both hung up that call,
I was like,
she called me right away. We're like, what?
yes,
What?
that is
So,
like insane.
The biggest hint and the biggest like advice we can give you for dealing with your nerd rage is have your nerd rage buddy.
That's right.
Always have your nerd rage buddy.
Always
that you
have
can
that
call,
text
that
open.
You can text.
Yeah,
That you can grab a drink with after work. That you can live stream with a drink with.
By the
you
way,
know?
it was funny because today I was out all day, like doing venue scouts, and so I wasn't near a computer at all, and I had my phone and I was getting texts, but since I was talking to people a lot, I was not checking texts. And it's so funny because I went to lunch and I sat down and Ruth Ann, And it was amazing. I had apparently missed out on a lot, and I felt bad about that.
No, it was fine. I'm glad you missed out on it. This was a day, guys. I also had a day, and what I loved about being able to rage with her is because I've been able to embrace my rage so much more since knowing her.
You gotta get it out.
You
can't hold it in, guys.
You can't. You have to work through
Just in the right time and right place.
Yes, exactly. Yes. But what makes nerd rage so fun is because it doesn't come from not necessarily like a negative, like awful place, but it becomes from like such a passionate thing because we love this stuff, so that when you fuck with it, we get mad. Like, but it's
right.
That's kind of still from a good place, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right, guys?
It's true.
But
anyway.
yeah, it's.
Anyway, that's our nerd rage for today.
That is how we deal with our nerd rage. So again, get your nerd rage buddy. We'll always be there for you guys. If it like something comes up that you just have to get out, post on our wall. We'll chat with you about it. Fine. Let's do it. Yeah. So cheers to you guys. We will see you live next week, and until then, keep on raging.